Y'all, can I tell you about these Tecovas boots? I don't know if y'all know this, but these boots are handmade, high quality, stylish, and comfortable right out of the box. I know we buy everything online these days, but boots are something you really should get fitted for. And it just so happens Tecovas is based right here in Austin. So come shop with me at the Tecovas store on South Congress or the Domain. That's TECOVAS.com. Don't go gently, y'all. Today on CityCast Austin, in case you didn't know, this city has become a legit food scene. And even if you missed that, you probably know that Austin's population is booming. The city's growth slowed some last year, but even now, more new folks are coming in every day. So, to get these newbies acquainted in town, we're talking to one of Austin's original restaurant bloggers, Jane Coe, known to her followers as Coco, about Austin's essential eats. CityCast Austin is brought to you by our exclusive launch sponsor, Tecovas. It's Wednesday, July 10th. I'm Nikki Devon, and this is what Austin's talking about. Hello, Coco. I'm Nikki. Thank you for joining us. I'm so excited to have you today.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to chat about all things Austin.
Okay, we've both been here for a while, but let's just say I'm brand new to town. I'm one of those dozens of people still moving to Austin every single week, even in this heat. Now, when you think of quintessential Austin meal, what comes to mind for you?
For sure, barbecue. Your good old Texas barbecue.
Let's get into
brisket, ribs, the sides. I grew up with sweet tea. I love sweet tea. I'm not big on drinking, so I always get like a big thing of sweet tea. And that's what I think of Austin. It's so iconic.
Now, I got to ask. I have to ask where your favorite barbecue is. You know it's coming.
Oh, I feel like I'm going to get into so much trouble. I feel like that's still going to get me in so much trouble.
How about we don't use favorite? How about we say standout? Top 3 standout barbecue.
Yeah, I like that. Hands down, my favorite place is La Barbecue. I've been eating there for over a decade. I was eating there when they were just a food truck. It's super cool to see them have, a restaurant, and they're one of the most popular spots. Their sides are incredible, but the meat is always perfectly smoked. I also love Terry Black's on Barton Springs. The line is so long, but it's super cool that you can go see the smokers. They'll let you go back to the back and see the smokers at any time. Their sides are amazing. I'm a sides girl. I come for the meat, but I definitely stay for the sides.
Oh, I'm a sides girl too. I'm a sides girl.
Sides girl, and I will get the sides to go and eat them throughout the week as leftovers. And the third spot, we're actually going there later tonight, actually, with a friend who just came in from out of town. So we're going to Leroy and Lewis. They also started off as a food truck, and they opened up their first brick and mortar earlier this year in South Austin. And they have some interesting cuts of meat, just different cuts that you would not see. And a really stellar dessert line. And also just like this really amazing burger.
Oh, see, I have not heard of them. So you put me on right now. I like it. Do you have a list of restaurants that people who are new to town just must try? If you want to get fully immersed into Austin food culture, what is you have to go here? Do you have any of those?
I always say, okay, there's 5 things that you have to eat in Austin. I call it the 5 food groups. Forget what you learned in elementary school about, the fruits and veggies and the sugar is supposed to be the smallest triangle on top. We're going to forget what we learned. So we're going to talk about the 5 food groups of Austin. You got your barbecue. You got tacos. You also got breakfast tacos, which have to be in a category of itself.
They are separate. They are separate.
Yes, they are separate. You got margaritas, which I know is something you drink, not eat, but I consider that in its own category. And then you have queso. You have queso, which is so iconic of Austin.
That's a solid 5 groups, because let me tell you something. I've gotten into some serious conversations about the best queso. So with your 5 food groups in mind, do you have any options in those 5 groups?
Oh, definitely. So for barbecue, we've already established it. I think if you're going to pick one of those, it would be La Barbecue for sure. Um, then thinking about breakfast tacos. I love Veracruz. I've been eating at Veracruz for 10
Yes.
years. It's just, they're the best. It's so good
Solid.
and super sweet. Two sisters that run, I think they have like 4 or 5 food trucks. They're also inside the Line Hotel, downtown Austin, if you're staying downtown. Um, for tacos, I feel like this is such a heated thing. I love Quantos. So Quantos has my favorite tacos. They're Mexico City style. They're small, they're petite. Then thinking about queso, I love the queso at Fresas on South First. It's also a super
Oh.
cute patio. Have you been there?
I've been there, but I don't know if I've had the I don't know if I've had the queso. I love fresas, but I be, getting all up into I be getting all up into their Brussels sprouts. So let's talk about this queso.
It's just, I feel like it's the perfect consistency. It's not too thick. It's not too
Ooh.
watery. It's just the perfect consistency. They have fresh chips. I feel like the chips are super important. And it also helps that they have a great frozen margarita. I love their frozen prickly pear margarita with a salted rim.
Ooh, that sounds good. That sounds good. Which takes us into your next food group.
Which is, I know,
Margarita.
the margaritas. I do love the prickly pear margarita at Fresas. It's strong. They also have a avocado margarita that they're known for.
I've had Cura's avocado margarita.
It's good.
And do you think that's like an Austin invention? 'Cause I don't think I've ever. I feel like the first time I heard that was Cura's.
I don't think I've seen it outside of Austin. I also just
Okay,
try not to drink margaritas outside of Austin because I just feel like it's not the same
it's
experience.
so disappointing. It's so
Yeah.
disappointing. I can't agree with you more. It like getting a bad margarita makes me irrationally angry. Now you're from Port Lavaca, but you came here in 2007 for college at UT. Now, was there anything that you had heard about and were dying to try right off the bat?
No, I didn't know anything about Austin. So growing up in Port Lavaca, being in Texas, you kind of have 2 options for college. It's UT or Texas A&M, and out of
Mm-hmm.
state was not an option for me. Financially, it just was not an option. So I chose UT. Um, and I grew up, my family does not eat out, maybe once a year, maybe with coupons. So I didn't have like a food list when I came to Austin. I lived
Mm.
on campus at UT. I ate the 99-cent chicken nuggets on the first floor of Jester, which was Wendy's, and
Mm-hmm.
that's all I knew.
Do you remember your first like memorable meal here?
There was this really cute sushi restaurant in West Campus called Sushi Nichi. I think that's what it was called, and I had never had fancy sushi. It's not, the restaurant wasn't like Uchi or Uchiko, but for me that was fancy. Going into a sushi restaurant, paying for a roll, a single roll, that's all I could afford at that time it was just like such a life-changing moment that I've never had.
So, what has changed about the Austin restaurant scene in the 14 years you've been blogging about it?
It's evolved. It's grown up. Um, we have the Uchi, the Franklin, the Ramen Tatsuya that started shaking things up in 2010 to 2012. And that inspired, I think, another flurry of restaurants to open, even within those categories. Barbecue is something I grew up eating in Port Lavaca. It was just fancy. It was just our backyard barbecue. And I still do that with my friends. But then you have this elevated version where, the brisket itself and smoking the brisket is a work of art that takes 10, 15 hours. Do you baste it? Do you season it? Is it a dry rub? And I think in 2016, when we started seeing a lot of tech companies open in Austin, like Facebook and Dropbox, which was, I think, really good for the economy of Austin, we then started seeing a different kind of restaurants, another like flurry of restaurants that were opening that were very influenced by the people that were moving here, which was like New York, California. And you started seeing
Mm-hmm.
more steakhouses. You started seeing, coffee shops that were charging $7 for iced latte. And you started seeing, food cost increase. I still can't get over the $7 lattes, but I think in 2018, 2019, I think Austin was struggling with like staying true to how things were before, but not realizing, oh, like California, New York is here and they want what they've been having the last 10 years. And so you started seeing this change of like old restaurants in Austin not being able to survive and stay open because people didn't want, basic Tex-Mex, but they wanted an elevated
Ooh,
experience, which
ooh,
I feel
that's
like is very.
controversial.
I know, but like I felt like I
Coco.
saw it through my I felt like I
Yeah.
saw it through my eyes. And I love both. I love both, and I think it's important to still conscious like when you choose to dine out, like try to still dine at our older establishments and don't forget about them.
Yeah, I'm a native Austinite and I definitely, you know, I straddle that fence. I'm always like there are my tried and true places that will always get my money. Always, 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 always. And then, then sometimes new cool stuff comes and it opens up and I'm like, I gotta try that. I gotta go there. Do you have an endangered Austin list? Like, what are some institutions you think are at the risk of closing or moving and might deserve a little more customer support to stay?
I can share some of my favorites that
Yeah,
are
absolutely.
older that I feel like I don't see people talk about or post about. So one of them is Tamale House. I love
Yes.
Tamale House.
Yep.
They're obviously known for the tamales, but they have really great tacos. They also have a really great margarita. It's huge.
The margarita is
But
so
it's
good.
so cute. They have this hidden back room that's all pink and kinda like, I don't wanna say Moroccan theme, maybe like interior Mexico, but it's just I feel like that's such a hidden gem, and they've been here for a really long time, like a
Yeah.
really long time, and people just don't talk about them. Um, Another restaurant that I love is Habaneros on, I think it's South First. Have
Yeah.
you been
Yeah.
there?
No, no, but I know exactly what you're talking about because I've seen it.
It's very authentic Mexican food, like, so good. Um, just, like, incredible food, super nice people, and again, like, I don't see people talking about, habaneros, and they've been here for so long.
So, like, talk about them. Go to Habaneros. Go to Tamale House. Okay, we'll be right back after this break. We are back with Coco talking about Austin's food scene. Tell me a little bit about the work that you've done to support Austin restaurants and like the food industry, like your efforts in 2020 and 2021. Talk to us a little bit about that.
I I love Austin so much. I mean, I think when I started Tasted Coco, it was originally just a recipe vlog, and then I got my first invite from a restaurant who was like, "Hey, we see you have this website. We loved your food photos. Can you come in and help us out? We don't have money." And I was like, sure. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know anything about food journalism. I don't have a journalism background. I didn't have a photography background. And I never looked back. I would visit 3 restaurants a day. I did that. I've done that for over a decade, just shooting all these free photo shoots, content, and just fell in love with Austin, like, wrote hundreds of blog posts, and I did my book in 2019, which was my love letter to Austin. I wanted to, create this book featuring only local businesses. And
Hmm.
then when 2020 rolled around, it was devastating. When the city had to shut down in mid-May or mid-March, what I didn't expect was when you're kind of the go-to person for fun things to do and recommendations and food recommendations, you also happen to just be that person that everyone thinks of when their restaurant is shutting down. So we launched Hunter for Hospitality and raised, I think, a little bit over $10,000 from our community and used that money to buy food from the restaurants that were starting to do takeout and gave the food out to hospitality workers that were
Nice.
furloughed or let go or just didn't have access to food because I don't think people understood that the service industry is the backbone of every local economy. Then we fast forward to 2021, the winter storm. What was originally a snow day quickly turned into
Hmm.
a natural disaster that the city wasn't ready for when we started getting rolling blackouts, and then unexpectedly, I started getting messages from doctors that were working at Dell Children's or Seton or St. David's that were like, "Hey, Jane, I'm an ER doctor. I followed you for years. We've been in the hospital for 3 days. We don't have food. Can you help us? And in 2 weeks, we raised $160,000. We bought thousands and thousands of meals from restaurants that were willing to open up. I was Venmoing money with the ones that definitely needed it within minutes to give out to their staff, and they were risking their lives driving out in the snow, opening up restaurants. Peach Tortilla was one of the ones that broke my heart. He showed up at the restaurant and he's like, "We don't have power. It's 20 degrees. Don't worry, we're gonna turn the burners on. They're on gas." They cooked in the dark for 4 hours to serve people at noon.
I have to tell you this. I have to say this. It's one of the things that I love about this city. Like for you, it's the restaurant industry. For some people, it's like the bar industry. All of these ways that we pulled up and was just like, I don't have a lot, but what I do have, I'm going to give to you. The same thing for the storm. I used to work at the city of Austin, and when we were passing out during that winter storm, we set up at the Millennium and passed out water, passed out food, passed out like baby stuff, all kinds of stuff. And it was fully, the volunteers were service industry people. The people that like, you know what I mean? Like it would, and they came in and run, like it was the most organized. It was the most like passionate and loving. And it was all service industry people volunteering their time. You know what I mean? And it's like, it reminds me of how Austin shows up, how we show up for each other.
So many people stepped up. No one did it for ego.
Yeah.
Nobody did it for money. And I think this is just what makes Austin so special.
Yeah.
It's just this unspoken way.
Yeah. So I want to switch gears a little bit, and I want to talk about tipping, because you go to so many restaurants all the time. I was in the restaurant industry, and I was a bartender, and so I'm an over tipping person. Some restaurants include tipping in their wages so they can get paid a fair wage. And Austin's been going to this like 20% service charge automatically. Who does that go to? Does it go to the server, the staff, everybody? How do you feel about tipping for like takeout? Like, what do you like? Let's talk about like, what are your practices on tipping?
Well, I always tip. I know times are tough. And I know people are like, "Oh man, the meals are $100 and you want me to do 20%, so then it's 120, right?" That's hard. But I think if you're going to go eat out, whether you're by yourself or you're with somebody else, like be mentally prepared, like you should tip. But in terms of takeout, I always tip. I think I'm just like, yeah, like I'm picking up the food. I don't really care. I'm just gonna tip anyway. Like, thank you for,
Yeah.
putting everything, put it in a bag, and I just hop in and grab it and go. I don't know. I think tipping is it's been around for decades, and I don't think it has evolved with the times of how times have changed. And I don't know how it looks. I think people don't understand, like, opening a restaurant there's a lot of cost involved that you don't realize as a diner. It's not just the rent. It's not that, like, some of these restaurants in downtown Austin are paying 20 grand a month for rent.
Oh yeah. I'm with you. I feel like if I didn't prepare my own food, I'm tipping. Like that.
Yeah.
Like that's it. That's it. I don't care if I showed up for takeout. I don't care. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. And I know not everybody feels this way. And I know not everybody feels this way. But I feel like whatever the cost is, right? Like things cost money, the cost of living has gone up. And so tipping has to change and grow and evolve. The times in my life I couldn't go out, I didn't go out. If I can't afford to tip, I don't go out.
Yeah.
If I can't afford to eat, I don't go out. I stay at home.
Yeah.
So no, I have a question, because this is kind of more of a personal question. I have a plus size cabaret troupe called Fat Bottom Cabaret. And there was a point in doing that I felt like I had to be online all the time and be this personality and be this person. And like, it was a struggle for me. And I see a lot of your life is online. And I'm curious about how you navigate that.
When I first started, I was one of, if not the first food blogger in Austin. This is before we had a restaurant scene here in the city. It wasn't about the pretty picture, the perfect video, how I looked on camera. Like when I first started the first 5 years, no one knew what I looked like. My first 10 years of Taste of Cocoa, I only talked about the restaurant, why the restaurant opened What the Chef Loves, like, where do they source their food from? It was not about me, it was just about the restaurants, and
Mm-hmm.
one day I decided to post a picture of me eating the food, and it just exploded. People just immediately emotionally connected, like, "Oh, this is a person, this is what she looks like, I feel
Right.
emotionally connected to her, I trust her, I like her recommendations, now I wanna know about everything in her life. I wanna know what she's putting in her house, I wanna see what her cat's eating, what pillow she's sleeping on." And it was, you know, it didn't come all in the same day. That would feel like an invasion of privacy, but it came over months and years, and now I think I'm just used to it where people just wanna know about all the things.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a balance.
Now that there are more restaurant influencers in town, I want to talk a little bit about like what role y'all play in this economy and culture. Like what I want to kind of get into this idea that like it's just about getting free stuff. I like there's a role that you play in the economy. You put a lot of your life online. This is what you eat, sleep, drink, like you know what I mean? So like let's talk about that.
It's a can of worms to answer this, but it's marketing, and marketing has changed. Historically, before, restaurants would have to pay advertising to print media, which I love, and radio media and TV media, and ad placements cost $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 if you can afford it as a restaurant, right? And that's how we were influenced to eat at a restaurant. You would see a commercial on TV, or you would open up the local magazine and you'd be like, "Oh, cool, I wanna eat here," right? That's how you were influenced, but you didn't know that restaurant was paying for that ad. And if they didn't pay for that ad, they're paying it for through PR. And PR costs 3 to 6,000, $10,000 depending on who you go with. Like, there is still money to be exchanged. Then when
Yeah.
Instagram came online and we started doing videos in 2017, 2018, it became free, right? Because you had a few influencers like myself that were just like, "Hey, I absolutely love you as a restaurant," and either they were reaching out to me or I was just going out of my way because I wanted to share stories. And, keep in mind, again, like at this time, I was shooting hundreds of free photo shoots for restaurants, just giving them all these photos for free because I knew they couldn't afford it. I mean, I was probably not running a very good business. When I come out to a restaurant, uh, it's like a 4-hour project to shoot at a restaurant, and I'm choosing to do it for free. And an ad agency that is doing, maybe a higher production is gonna charge 10, 15, $20,000 for that ad shoot. But, I was just getting started and I was like, "Yeah, I'm happy to come by and shoot photos." I started my account when I was 20. I'm 34 now. I've been very lucky and fortunate and honored to be part of the community here in Austin, but the community has also changed. Like, the city has changed. And, um, like I did start sharing about my personal life. I met somebody, we got paper married, we're getting married in the fall, we're building a
Oh,
house, like, I think
nice. Nice.
thank you. But I think people see that and they're like, "Oh, she just got all this, she's so lucky," and I'm like, "No, this is a 14-year grind, I just chose not to share the grind." I didn't share about all the things that I do for local business every day. I just show the highlights.
Thank you so much for coming on with me today, Coco. I really appreciate it. I know I asked you a lot of questions. I appreciate you being on here with me today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
That's all for today here on CityCast Austin. You can find links to Coco's social media in our show notes. Now, if you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Austin newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye, y'all.